Side plank clams. When getting set up for the side plank clams, you want to make sure the band is above your knees. You want to have your shoulders, hips, and feet all in a line if you were to look at yourself straight down. As you can see from this angle, my feet, hips, and shoulders are mostly in a straight line, even as my hips are in the air. It can get tempting to pull the hips forward or to sink the hips back as we're holding ourselves up. But when you get up in the air, double check that the hips, shoulders, and feet are in about a straight line, and still keep that hip in control. And I'm not using my hand to keep the hip in control. I'm just having it there to monitor what I'm doing to make sure I'm not opening up those hips. So just about here, a little bit above those knees so you're not pressing onto all those tendon attachments and everything, ligament attachments. As I'm laying on my side, I'm gonna think shoulder, hip, and feet in a straight line. That looks about right. With the elbow, I'm gonna make sure it's about underneath my shoulder. For everybody, this will be a little bit different. Sometimes you wanna start with your shoulder a little bit, or elbow a little bit further away, or a little bit closer. That way when you go up, it kind of gets into the right spot. I like to start with mine right underneath my shoulder, so when I press up, my elbow is slightly above my shoulder in this position here. As I'm up in the plank position, my knee is in contact with the ground, the bottom knee, and my feet should stay about in line with the hips and shoulders. I like to put my hand on my top hip, that way I can feel if my hip is falling backwards. So all the work is coming from me pulling that knee to the ceiling and engaging all of the muscles up in my hip. So up in the air, keep that hand on the hip to make sure it doesn't wobble. Open those knees and back together. We can get in the illusion sometimes that we can bring our hip higher or bring our knee higher by opening up our hip like this. We don't want to do this. We want to keep the belly button facing the wall. Try to have everything facing the same direction the whole time. Now, as you're pressing up, you want to feel like this shoulder is going back and down and pushing into the mat. Simultaneously, the other shoulder should be facing the ceiling. That way we're not curling into the mat as we're opening and closing our legs. I should also note you will feel this in the obliques on the side facing the ground. That is what's holding you up along with the shoulder muscles. The leg muscles you should be feeling will be the hips. Sometimes you'll feel it in the lower leg, but it should be primarily focused on the hip facing. The side plank with clam can also be done without the band. Without the band, you might be able to get some more range, but everything else still applies. So you'll still set up, getting your shoulders, hips, feet in line, up on that elbow, double check that you're still in line, hand on the hip, open as wide as you can, keeping that hip in place, and back to close. You should still feel all the muscles in the same areas as with the band, maybe with a little less intensity. It's still a difficult move no matter what.